The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains, casting soft golden streaks across the room. Amara blinked against the brightness, her head pounding as if someone had taken a hammer to her skull.
Hey there, and welcome to Freezy Stories. Get ready for another amazing story that will keep you hooked from start to finish. If you love great storytelling, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. And if you enjoy this video, show us some love by liking, commenting, and sharing. It really helps our channel grow. Now, let's dive into today's story.
The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains, casting soft golden streaks across the room. Amara blinked against the brightness, her head pounding as if someone had taken a hammer to her skull. Her body felt heavy, and her limbs protested as she tried to sit up. She groaned, pressing a hand to her temple. What happened last night? She murmured to herself. The room was eerily quiet, save for the distant chirping of birds outside. Amara glanced around, noticing her clothes from the previous night neatly folded on a chair. A faint sour taste lingered in her mouth, and her thoughts felt like fragments of a broken mirror, disjointed and blurry. She closed her eyes, trying to piece together the night. There were flashes: Adanna's laughter, Chioma's hand on her shoulder, Nkechi's voice murmuring something she couldn't quite make out. Then there was the drink, the warmth spreading through her veins, and the overwhelming urge to close her eyes. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, snapping her out of her haze. She reached for it, squinting at the screen. It was Adanna. "Hey," she answered, her voice scratchy and weak. There was a pause on the other end before he spoke. "Amara, are you okay?" She frowned. His tone wasn't warm or concerned, it was distant, almost cold. "I'm fine, I think. Why?" Adanna hesitated. "You just sounded off. I wanted to check in." Amara rubbed her forehead. "It was the bachelorette getaway. Maybe I overdid it a little." She tried to laugh, but it came out strained. "You know how the girls can be." There was silence again, heavier this time. "Right," Adanna finally said. "Just take care of yourself, okay? I'll talk to you later." Before she could respond, he hung up. Amara stared at the phone, her heart sinking. His tone left her uneasy, but she couldn't figure out why. Across the resort, Chioma sat on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling as she replayed the footage on her phone. The dim light of the screen illuminated her face, etched with guilt and regret. The video was grainy, but the audio was clear. Amara's soft, slurred voice, Adanna's laughter, and the murmured exchange between Nkechi and the hired man. Chioma winced, pausing the video before it reached the worst part. "What are we doing?" she whispered to herself. She clutched the phone tightly, her mind racing. This wasn't how it was supposed to feel. She thought it would be easy, just another scheme, another secret to keep. But seeing Amara's face, hearing her voice, it was too much. Chioma shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I can't do this," she muttered. But what could she do now? The damage was already done. In the lounge, Adanna and Nkechi lounged on a plush sofa, champagne glasses in hand. Adanna leaned back, a smug smile playing on her lips. "Well," she said, raising her glass. "Step 1 was a success." Nkechi clinked her glass against Adanna's, her expression more subdued but no less pleased. "It's about time she got knocked down a peg. Little Miss Perfect needs to learn she's not untouchable." Adanna chuckled, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Exactly. And with Chioma keeping the evidence, we're untouchable. But she's cracking," Nkechi warned, her voice low. "You saw her face this morning. She's not built for this." Adanna waved a dismissive hand. "She'll fall in line, she always does. She's too scared of losing everything to mess this up." Nkechi nodded, but a shadow crossed her face. She sipped her champagne, the bubbles tickling her throat as she stared into the distance. Somewhere deep down, a small part of her wondered if they had gone too far. Amara sat by the window in her room, staring at the trees swaying in the gentle breeze. Her mind raced as she tried to fill in the gaps from the night before. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her gut, but she didn't know what. Her friend's laughter echoed in her ears, haunting her like a ghost she couldn't shake. And Obinna's distant tone lingered, gnawing at the edges of her thoughts. "What happened?" she whispered, her voice trembling. She didn't know it yet, but the cracks in her perfect life were beginning to show. And the truth, when it finally surfaced, would shatter everything. Amara's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. At first she ignored it, assuming it was just the usual wedding excitement, friends checking in, vendors confirming final details. But when the buzzes turned into a flood, her stomach twisted with unease. Something was wrong. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she unlocked the screen. Her notifications were out of control, hundreds of messages, missed calls, and tags on social media. Her heart pounded as she clicked on the first message from Chioma. Chioma. "Amara, don't check your phone, please, call me first." Amara's breath caught in her throat. Her pulse roared in her ears as she scrolled down. More messages poured in. "Nkechi, just stay calm. Adanna, I'm so sorry." Then she saw the link, a viral video. Her name was trending. Panic clawed at her chest as she tapped on the link, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. The video started playing. The room was dimly lit, the camera angle slightly off-center, but the scene was unmistakable. She saw herself, dazed, barely conscious, mumbling incoherently. Voices in the background, laughter, a shadowy figure leaning in too close, her dress slipping off her shoulder. Amara's breath hitched. "No. No, no, no," she whispered, her hands flying to her mouth, her face burned with humiliation as she watched the nightmare unfold on screen. A deep sense of horror settled in her bones. She didn't remember this, she couldn't. But there it was, for the entire world to see. The comments were ruthless. "So much for a respectable bride. Obinna should run while he still can. She's finished. No man wants a wife with a video like this." Her hands tightened around the phone. Shame, fear, betrayal. They crashed over her like a tidal wave, threatening to drown her. Who had done this? How could they? Tears blurred her vision as she dialed Obinna's number. He answered on the third ring. "Obinna," she choked out. Did you see it?" A long pause. "Too long." "I saw it," he said finally. His voice was unreadable. Amara clenched her jaw, gripping the phone as if it could hold her together. "It's not what it looks like. I don't remember anything, I swear." Another silence, then a sigh. "Amara, I don't know what to say." Her chest tightened. "Say you believe me. Say you'll stand by me." "I need time to think," Obinna murmured. The words hit harder than she expected. He was hesitating. Doubting her. "You need time," Amara repeated, her voice cracking. "Obinna, I'm being humiliated, my life is falling apart, and you need time?" I can't talk about this right now," he said. "I'll call you later." The line went dead. Amara let the phone slip from her fingers, her entire body trembling. She was alone. Completely and utterly alone. Across the city, Chioma sat curled up in her room, staring at her phone with tear-filled eyes. She hadn't meant for this to happen. She only recorded the video for leverage, to keep things under control. She never intended for it to go public, but now it was out there. And there was no undoing it. Her hands shook as she typed out a message to Amara. She wanted to explain, to say something, anything. But what could she possibly say? "Chioma. Amara, please. I didn't." She deleted the message. There were no words that could fix this. Somewhere else Adanna and Nkechi sat together, watching the online chaos unfold. Adanna smirked, swirling a glass of wine in her hand. "Well," she said, tilting her head. That escalated faster than I thought. Nkechi wasn't smiling. She scrolled through the hateful comments, her stomach twisting. This is bad, she murmured. Adanna shrugged. It's exactly what she deserves. Nkechi said nothing. For the first time, doubt crept into her mind. Had they gone too far? Amara curled up on the floor, tears streaming down her face. She had no answers, no explanations, only a hollow ache in her chest. Her perfect life had shattered into a million pieces, and she had no idea how to put it back together. Obinna sat in his car, gripping his phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. His stomach churned as he stared at the pictures on the screen, images of Amara, or at least someone who looked like her, tangled in another man's arms. Dim lighting, a hotel bed, soft sheets rumpled beneath two bodies pressed too close. His fiancée's face, her supposed face, was turned toward the man, their lips mere inches apart. A bitter taste filled his mouth. This couldn't be real. Could it? His heart wanted to reject it outright, but his mind whispered doubt. The video had already shaken him. Now this? A new message popped up. Unknown. Number, you deserve to know the truth. Your bride-to-be isn't as innocent as she seems. Obinna clenched his jaw, breathing hard through his nose. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the images again, hoping, praying, that he would find some mistake, some flaw that would prove it was all fake. But the resemblance was too close. His Amara. In another man's arms. He squeezed his eyes shut, pain slicing through him. He had wanted to believe her. He really had. When she called, desperate and panicked, he had heard the raw fear in her voice. Part of him had wanted to rush to her side, to shield her from the world. But now, a knock on his car window made him flinch. He looked up to see Adanna peering inside, her expression soft and concerned. He hadn't even realized he had parked outside her place. Sighing heavily, he unlocked the door. She slid into the passenger seat, her perfume filling the air. Something warm and floral, so familiar. She always smelled nice, always knew the right thing to say. Obinna, she murmured, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Talk to me. He exhaled sharply, running a hand down his face. I don't know what to believe anymore, Adanna. He handed her the phone. Look at this. She took the phone, her eyes scanning he pictures. A small frown tugged at her lips, and she sighed, shaking her head. Oh, Obinna. She didn't gasp in shock. She didn't try to defend Amara. Instead, she exuded quiet sympathy, as though she had been expecting this all along. I wanted to tell you, she whispered, returning the phone. But I didn't know how. Obinna's head snapped up. Tell me what? Adanna hesitated, biting her lip. I didn't want to be the one to ruin things for you too, but... She trailed off, shaking her head again as if it pained her. But what? He pressed. She sighed, lowering her gaze. Amara. She's not as perfect as you think. I didn't want to believe it myself, but I've seen things, heard things. A sharp pain stabbed through Obinna's chest. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Adanna hesitated for just a second before her eyes met his, filled with manufactured sorrow. Because I knew you loved her. Obinna turned away, gripping the steering wheel. His emotions were a tangled mess. Anger, heartbreak, confusion. Adanna reached for his hand, her touch warm, grounding. I hate seeing you like this, she whispered. He didn't pull away, she gave his hand a small squeeze. You deserve someone who won't make a fool of you, Obinna. Someone who truly respects you. He swallowed hard. I don't understand. Why would she do this to me? Adanna shook her head. Some people are just good at pretending. Her words cut deep. Obinna had spent years loving Amara, believing in her. But what if she had been lying to him all along? What if everything, their love, their future, had been a carefully crafted illusion. The doubt Adanna planted took root. And with every passing second, it grew stronger. And she knew it. Adanna's fingers lingered on his hand just a little longer, her presence a quiet offer. A reminder that she was there. That she had always been there. Obinna didn't move her. For the first time, he wasn't sure if he still wanted to fight for Amara. Meanwhile, across town, Nkechi smirked as she leaned back on the couch, scrolling through the messages on her burner phone. She had played her part well, and now, the seeds of destruction were fully planted. She tapped the screen, sending a simple message to Adanna. Nkechi. He took the bait. A reply came almost instantly. Adanna. Perfect. Now we just let him fall apart on his own. Nkechi chuckled, tossing the phone onto the table. This was just the beginning. And Amara had no idea what was coming next. Obinna sat on the edge of Adanna's couch, his head buried in his hands. The weight of the past few days pressed down on him like a heavy storm cloud, refusing to lift. The video, the photos, Amara's tearful pleas, it all swirled in his mind, an endless loop of confusion and betrayal. Adanna sat beside him, close but not too close. She knew how to play this, soft, patient, understanding. She wasn't here to push. She was here to comfort. You don't have to go through this alone, she murmured, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Obinna sighed, his body tense. I just don't get it, Adanna. If she really loved me, why would she do this? Adanna bit her lip, hesitating as if debating whether to say what was on her mind. Then, she sighed, looking away like it pained her. Maybe she never really loved you the way you loved her. Obinna's jaw clenched. That thought hurt more than he wanted to admit. Adanna turned to him, her eyes full of something unreadable. You deserve better, Obinna. She reached up, brushing her fingers lightly against his cheek. It was a simple touch, soft and lingering, but it sent a ripple through him. He turned his head slightly, their faces inches apart. Adanna. He started, but she silenced him by closing the distance. Her lips pressed against his, warm, inviting, full of promises unspoken. For a moment, he kissed her back. Just for a moment. Then reality crashed down on him, and he pulled away breathless. This isn't right, he muttered, standing abruptly. Adanna looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. You say that, but you didn't stop me right away. Obinna ran a hand through his hair, his thoughts a mess. He needed to get out of there. What he didn't know was that a small hidden camera, placed carefully by Adanna, had recorded everything. Elsewhere, Amara sat frozen, staring at her phone screen in shock. The footage Chioma had sent wasn't long, but it was enough. Enough to show her what had really happened that night at the resort. Enough to show Nkechi, standing in the shadows, orchestrating everything. Her stomach churned. She had suspected betrayal, but seeing it unfold before her eyes was something else entirely. She gripped her phone tightly and dialed Chioma's number. The call barely rang before Chioma picked up. You saw it? Chioma's voice was barely above a whisper. Amara swallowed hard. Tell me everything. A long pause. Then a shaky exhale. It was never supposed to go this far, Chioma confessed. I recorded it for leverage, but I swear, I didn't leak the full video. Someone else did. Amara's hands trembled. Nkechi. She was behind it, wasn't she? She and Adanna, Chioma admitted. They planned everything. The trip, the setup, the video. And now? They're turning Obinna against you. A lump formed in Amara's throat. Her best friends. The people she had trusted the most. She blinked back tears and forced herself to focus. She couldn't fall apart now. Chioma. she said, her voice steadier than she felt. I need help. There was silence on the other end, then a slow, hesitant reply. What do you need me to do? Amara clenched her fist. I need to prove the truth. And I need someone who can help me do it. Later. That night Amara met Nkechi in a quiet cafe, her hands wrapped tightly around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. Nkechi had always been a problem solver. A tech genius. The kind of person who saw patterns where others saw chaos. If anyone could help her find the truth, it was him. She slid her phone across the table. This is all I have so far. Nkechi picked it up, playing the video. His sharp eyes flickered with recognition as he rewound and replayed certain sections. Interesting, he murmured, pausing the video at a particular frame. This shadow here, it's not just Nkechi. There's someone else. Amara's breath hitched. Who? Nkechi didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out his laptop, connecting it to her phone. Let's find out. Amara watched as he worked, her heart pounding. She had been humiliated, betrayed, and left to drown in the chaos they had created. But not anymore. She was going to fight back. And this time, she wouldn't be the one left broken.
Hey, Freezy Stories family. We're so glad you stopped by to watch. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and keeps us motivated to bring you even more incredible stories. Thank you for being part of our journey. See you in the next one.